we could start. Okay, welcome everyone. I am really super excited about this call tonight. This brings back old times for many of us. Jeff and I go back many, many years. I started working with Jeff really on an ongoing basis, probably in the beginning of 2012. And Jeff was very, very instrumental in when I started with Isagenix and my success. And I probably could speak for a lot of leaders on this team that Jeff played a major role in just helping us learn so many different skills, habits, and mindset of the business of network marketing, and just a lot of people he just have helped in life in general, just breaking through patterns. And I want to just read Jeff's bio because it's very, very impressive. So Jeffrey Combs is a renowned author, speaker, and success addiction coach who specializes in separating feelings from past events in a process called letting go. Jeffrey started his business Golden Mastermind Seminars 23 years ago in 1998, and since then has coached over 14,000 clients and 70,000 one-on-one hours. And Jeff has published 5 books, including a #1 on Amazon's best-selling list, and has been featured on social media publications, magazines, radio, Fox, ABC, CBS, and Lifetime. Jeff is available for one-on-one coaching, as well as keynote speeches, podcast Zooms, and Facebook Lives. I am totally excited to have Jeff on this call tonight. Jeff is going to be speaking on week 1 about money mindset, prosperity mindset, and the money factor. And Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My unequivocal privilege and pleasure to be here with you. And I also want to thank Alexis Dimitriolakos, and especially you, Desiree, for the two of you putting this together, and then the effort that you put forth with my assistant, Dylan Albertson, to bring this all together, then all the effort of the leaders for marketing. And I am just truly, truly honored to be here with so many exceptional people that I had the privilege of knowing going back to 2011. I first met Alexis in 2011 and Alexis Romano in 2011. Then I had already met you at that point in 2010, Desiree. So to be here, and of all the speaking I've done for the insurance companies, the real estate companies, the network marketing companies, there's never been a team like Healthy Body Team. I've just never had that connection like I've had. I mean, I've had dinner with so many people in this team. I've spoken in front of thousands of people. I did so many events for so many years. And I mean, it's just between CG, Tara, Alexis, Desiree, Alexis, I mean, there's just Vicki Pollock, so many, Lori Scott Carminucci, Tara Mack. I've dined and spent just such quality time with so many of you. And I mean, that doesn't even touch the surface on the people that I've spent quality time with in rooms and events and restaurants and breakthroughs to success. And I mean, Celeste Diodano. I mean, I could just go down the laundry list of exceptional, just first-class people. Pete Kaufman, I was in New Orleans with. I mean, there's at least 200 people I could put on there. And so to be here with you for 12 weeks brings tears in my eyes, and I'm sure I will cry throughout this event, because somewhere between the pleasure and the pain is that place called passion. And if you can find that sweet spot that many of you knew as an athlete, where you find that zone, that's when people begin to show up. The parking spaces show up, the people show up, the opportunities avail themselves. And that's the mythical, magical place called letting go. And that space in consciousness called the zone, we all can access it. So in this next 12 weeks, my objective is to assist as many of you to understand that there's a mechanism to letting go. And once you begin to have the understanding and the awareness and the reflexes of letting go, then you will always be letting go. You'll seldom be in conflict. You'll seldom be in a position to prove someone wrong or right. You'll seldom be in a place where you'll be angry, and you'll be able to acknowledge your feelings without repressing or suppressing them, so you can let go. There's just so many benefits to letting go. It will assist you in every situation you do in life, and it will take you out of anxiety, fear, and doubt as you learn the process of letting go. Now, tonight's topic, and Desiree picked the 12 topics, so she couldn't have just lined them out better for a culture than she did. So I want to thank you for that. So tonight we're going to focus on money, mindset, and prosperity. I had never heard the term prosperity used in the context where I could really understand it. In 1996, I started listening to a 6-cassette audio course, 6 cassettes, called Prosperity Consciousness by Frederick Lehrman. And I later shared the stage with Frederick on many occasions. And in that content, I started to understand the term your dialogue with money, the way you communicate with money, the way you communicate with asking, deserving, and receiving. And then I started to understand the Latin word prosperity means prospero, means in the flow. It means to flow. And then the word deserve is another Latin word meaning da servie. It means of service. And so we oftentimes confuse serving, like waitressing and waiting and serving and taking care of people, versus service, which is the value proposition. So as you begin to understand that you do deserve to receive. Now you've been so conditioned to give that giving and giving and giving, and then there's a lot of noble suffering and over giving and enabling and over obligating and doing more for others than you do for yourself. And then many people in the world put themselves last, and they're in this empty bucket syndrome. And when you're an empty bucket, your bucket is empty, and you're in adrenal fatigue and overwhelmed and exhausted from all the situations that you've done, and the emotion that drives that is guilt, and you hold on to that guilt, and then the backside of guilt is resentment, because you feel you deserve something and you're not getting the reward because of the empty bucket you're in. So being able to ask, deserve, and receive will be key components to this transition. Now, if 2020 and 21 were not the breakthrough years for you, then you commit tonight that there's a new sheriff in town, and you begin to step into that power, and the sheriff is you. It's not me. I'm the facilitator. You're the power. I'll give you the insight and the wisdom, but it's going to be your responsibility, the ability to respond. That's a reflex. Now, for those of you who haven't seen me speak in 4 years, I have quantumly grown in a stratosphere of really understanding the neuroscience of cause and effect, why we do what we do, but most importantly, what it means to change a reflex. Now that never really clicked with me until a few years ago. I was a top tier high school athlete. I played college sports. I had great reflexes. I had hand-eye coordination. I'm very skilled with bows and arrows and other situations. I'm skilled with the short hop in baseball, the jump shot, running a post route, being able to intercept a pass, and I had all those. But I also was an addict for 14 years. And by the time I graduated from high school, I had so much repressed emotion from being forced to play sports and participate in situations that I shouldn't have been doing. And so a lot of my life was force. And so I lived in this force, not power. And I had this anger that I was so repressed and suppressed that it led to acute drug addiction, alcoholism, sexual addictions, compulsive debting, spending, pathological lying, serial cheating, a whole multitude of successes that led me to a series of rock bottoms. Fortunately, I got clean and sober in a heroin clinic when I was 31 years old, in a wheelchair weighing 114 pounds. That's a very exaggerated way to change, because change is an option, and unequivocally, change can be facilitated by you having a better understanding of the reflex of change, the reflex of letting go. Now, here will be a major component in this transition for you, is understanding how your body goes into fight or flight without you even knowing it. Now, in sports, you're in the batter's box and the pitcher throws a pitch that just handcuffs you. You go into fight or flight. You can't respond to that stimulus. What you do is react to it. And that's what most of the world does. They react to stimulus. They react to the news. They react to people that violate them. They react to people who don't buy from them. And then they turn it into rejection. They turn it into abandonment, because an emotional addict always wants a little more. This is what leads to being overwhelmed, procrastination, and avoidance. And you can't possibly be prosperous when you live in scarcity, when you live in broke thoughts, when you live in lack, when you're overwhelmed by the circumstances and the situations that are happening. Desiree, whatever's going on in the background is cool with me. I can just go right over it. So
can I just make an announcement? Can everyone please check their Zooms and mute your lines, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
cool. But once again, no one's going to get in trouble here. We're done getting in trouble. We're we're more than grown-ups. We're having a spiritual experience here. And so mistakes are mistakes. And that's it. You have to learn to understand that mistakes are mistakes. They're not catastrophic events that are going to ruin your life. And you look at a mistake and you forgive yourself, you make amends, and you pick yourself back up and you step into what is called courage. And for you to create this transition, wherever you are right now, let's say you've been in this business for a number of years and you're not seeing the rewards that you know you're capable of. You're in this space that you're making $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, but you know you're capable of 20, you know you're capable of 40. You see other people doing it, you're scratching your head going, why them and not me? Well, the reason that other people do it is not important. What is important is that you do. Because in our game, you must learn to have a very short memory and you forget about yesterday and you focus on today. And today is the gift you have. It's 86,400 seconds. It breaks down to 1,440 minutes. And the greatest gift you can give yourself right now is forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude, and then learn how to let go. So that you can be that person you know you're capable of. Now, the facilitation of change is a very unique experience. Very few people really understand the emotion of apathy and the effect it has on the ability to change. Because what happens is we become addicted to the neurochemical cortisol, and then we ride the adrenaline train. So that's the cardio cocktail that we spike on a high and we bottom on a low in apathy. Apathy is the lowest level of transmutational energy with the exception of grief. And so those two energies take a lot of people to it. They grieve and they're in this apathetic feeling, which is despondency, depression, and other low levels of energy that we transmute from. And then some days we muster up the courage and we spike and we find someone and we get excited about it. And all of a sudden we're back in that adrenaline junkie that we've lived in. And that's not the way you do this. The way you do this is you learn to let go. You separate your feelings from the events that shape them. You feel good enough, capable enough, and you start to give yourself permission to change and succeed one day at a time. This requires to come together concurrently. So your dialogue with money is going to be a direct reflection of the conditioning you grew up with, and then what you've done with it since you're 18 years old to where you are today. So if you find yourself in scarcity, lack, poverty consciousness, credit card debt, you can chalk some of that up to how you've been conditioned to behave. There's also credit card debt, student loan debt, and all the other situations that you've been handed these little plastic instruments of units called credit cards and other ways that the lending institution sets you up to be in a lot of liability debt. And very few people understand what that does to them. It just absolutely breaks down the immune system, the adrenal system, and the lymphatic system when you're worried about events that haven't happened. And when you're worried about situations. So a large percent of the population is looking over their shoulder in regret and looking ahead of themselves at anxiety of the future that hasn't happened. And that's why letting go means that you're able to separate your feelings from the past and separate your feelings from the future. And then you put yourself right here in a very relaxed focus. There are two words that you're required to eliminate this evening. Those two words are yeah, but. The next series of sounds that you learn to eliminate is a sound called kinda. Americans insert the word kinda in many of their sentences. It's K-I-N-D-A, it's a sound, it's not even a word. Kind of is two words, kinda is one sound. The American populace uses it frequently. So for you to be able to step into a mindset conducive to creating a livelihood and free enterprise that will allow you to create what the free market will bear. Now, many of you have seen Alexis, Terra, CG, and you see that the results that they've created. Well, I was there when it happened. So I was their coach in 2011. They all hired me within a 90-day window. So not only did I get to participate, but I got to witness it. And they are exceptional women, and every one of you on this Zoom are exceptional. And there isn't anything you can't accomplish within reason. It has to be realistic and within a time frame, provided that you have the system, method, and routine. And so when you have that can really assist you with some of the distractions, but you also have to let go of the anxiety you live in, the doubt that you use to keep yourself stuck, and the fear that you hold on to about the future that hasn't happened. So for you to be a 6-figure income earner or a 7-figure income earner, you're in the right place at the right time. That's equation one. So then it's important that you're able to, so that's the company, the industry, that's one of the components. There's three components. There's right place, right time. That's one. And then two, you master the reflexes. And the reflexes are one of the most important aspects of it, is that you start to witness and notice how your body goes into fight or flight. How you go into anxiety without even knowing that it's happening. And you start to address that. You have longer breath cycles. And in your communication style, you change your communication style. And you stop speaking lack and you start speaking prosperity. You start speaking in I am rather than yeah, but. You communicate differently between your brain, your limbic brain, and your abdomen where your diaphragm is, because that's where your power is. So what happens when you go into fight or flight, you go like this, you've cut off all your energy. So that relegates you to attracting to your reality people and situations that are going to serve the payoff that you live in. An addict always wants a little more. Very few people understand that they're emotional addicts. They're addicted to anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, apathy, and pride. So if you're not aware of why you do what you do, your body will relapse hundreds of times a day into fight or flight. That creates the cortisol, adrenaline addiction that very few people understand. It's connected to what's called a trauma bond, and we recreate this over and over. So if you're married to someone, you have a boss, or you have someone in your circle of influence that's in a lot of anxiety, and you react to their anxiety, you virtually become addicted to it. So that means it's going to be your responsibility to create healthy boundaries, separate your feelings from what's going on in that world, and be able to do your best to be your best one day at a time to change these reflexes. So when it comes to the skill of selling, branding, and marketing, your reflexes are very important to you. But if your first reflex is fight or flight, the sound out of your mouth frequently is and then followed by well. And so when people are in this trauma and this anxiety, they usually have a broken sentence structure, which has nothing to do with a speech impediment or ADD or ADHD or all these medical terms that the medical industry loves to medicate people on. And instead of medicating, you have to learn to elevate yourself above anxiety and fear and doubt into a place called courage. And people ask me all the time, how do I? It's like there's a string, how do I? You know, it's not how do I, it's why do you? When you have a better understanding of why you do what you do, then you can change the brain-body connection between the limbic brain and your abdomen, because that's where your power is. When you're in fight or flight all day long, you're in a chronic state of being overwhelmed. And that overwhelmed state leads to avoidance, procrastination. It's a good intention, poor delivery syndrome. If you have a good intention and a poor delivery, now you're addicted to disappointment, and that disappointment becomes the payoff. Years go by, you're in the same business, the same company, the same relationship, and you're just recreating the same situation over and over to fulfill a neurochemical craving you're emotionally addicted to. Desiree, can you tell I've spent hours on this subject? I've coached 70,000 hours. I swear that 50,000 of the hours that I've coached people on, 50 to 70,000 on this right here, this connection. I've absolutely perfected this in a 23 going on 20-year period of how to assist people, how to understand, how to let go of the trauma bond and the reflex. Now, when you saw me speak years ago, Desiree, I never mentioned the reflex, because that was the breakthrough that I have had in the last 4 years, is that people operate out of a reflex. Now, if I can assist people to understand how to let go of that reflex, now I'm more valuable. And that's what has happened is as I have more and more people hiring me, like people who are multi-millionaires that are still pissed off and miserable. I coach one man who's worth 55 million, but at 5 years clean and sober, he's still angry, pissed off. His kids and his wife called me and said, you got to do something with him. Well, I don't have to do anything, but I've assisted him to understand how the events that shaped his feelings that he repressed, that means those are the events that we forget about. These are the events that we stuff. These are the events that we never address. That's what creates the reflex. And the more you understand that letting go is a skill set, and every one of you can master this. This is not that difficult. This does not require a lot of education. It requires inspiration. The inspiration is the commitment to address the courage to overcome the situation that you stay in. And it's that situation that will allow you to change who and what you attract. The biggest benefit of letting go is that over a period of time, you will begin to see situations that you never were able to witness before. They were always there. The people showed up, but you would sabotage it because you weren't good enough. The story that would tell yourself based on the trauma bonds you held on to You would sabotage that self because you're not sure if you could be responsible enough to be successful. You're not sure if you could actually, who am I to be a 6-figure monthly income earner? Oh my God, how would I pull that off? How would I maintain that? I can't even get my car in the garage. How the fuck am I ever going to be able to be a 6 or 7-figure income earner? Well, you can't in that communication style. Because if you're not good enough, then your ego will continue to create situations to fulfill a neurochemical craving that you're emotionally addicted to. Now, when you start to understand just the simple mastery of what I'm going to teach you over a 12-week period, and you put it into application, the results will begin to show up. Results are the proof. That's the proof. So in any 12-step program, so like any recovery program, the results begin to show up because people become sober. And what happens in sobriety is the brain fog lifts. And all of a sudden you start to have clarity that you never had before. And we've been addicted as children ever since we were small because of the chaos in the household, the violence we witnessed, the shaming and the guilting, the unpredictability we grow up in, and all the other situations that are around us. We start to become addicted to fight or flight as children as little as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. By the time you're 18 years old, you've spent 20,000 meals with people in your circle of influence and the playground. You're sent at school, a lot of conditioning and programming has happened. You've been conditioned to go to college, get an education. You've been conditioned to go to the doctor and the other medical communities. You've been conditioned to do a lot of situations that eventually become disempowering for you. And then at 30 years old, you're an exhausted grown-up, addicted to a series of emotions that you hold on to. Then you join your business and you see other people go, oh my God, I could do this. Well, now you're in this forced counterforce situation because you know you can, but you're not sure if you can. It's possible, but it's impossible. And that's the duality that so many people live in. And that's what creates in money the law of the lid. So there's only so much money that you can create and so much accomplishment you can accomplish when you have a lid on it. That law of the lid means you're in control of being out of control. And so you hold on to that. And so that's where many people get stuck at 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. The bottom falls out of the situation. And then we're back to those feelings. I'm not sure if I can do this. It's not that you're not sure, it's that you require to be able to let go of the space called doubt, anxiety, and fear. And as you begin to have a better understanding of why you do what you do, and you focus one day at a time in changing the reflex. So when you start to feel yourself in fight or flight, that's when you access your abdomen, you breathe into it. So people will say to me, oh, is that all I do? I just breathe? No, it's a little more complicated than that. But I mean, I did it. I was once an addict drinking a gallon of vodka a day. I went from being an addict in a wheelchair to a millionaire in a 9-year period. Now, it can happen a lot faster because in today's world, because there's so many more tools, there's so much more access, there's so many better opportunities than I was doing this in the 80s. I mean, unequivocally, in a 24-month period, your entire life can change. In 6 months, in 12 months, your whole life can change. But it's the one day at a time discipline that's required. I mean, do you actually have a routine or do you wing it? Do you actually have a system that you live your life in, or you just do it laissez-faire? I mean, it's going to require some emotional discipline to create this transition. And understanding why you do what you do will be a major component of that. So there's a term called getting money right. Now, what does that mean? It means that you start to feel comfortable with receiving. You're open to the opportunity, and you let go of not being good enough. If you're in a not good enough state, it's going to affect your dialogue to ask for commitments because you're not sure if you can do it. You're worried about getting in trouble, making mistakes, saying the wrong thing. This is how people sabotage themselves. You let go of these stories that you tell yourself, and you access the courage to step up into your power, and you will be able to learn to ask the questions in sequence. This is a very simple process. It's not nearly as difficult as you perceive it, but if your ego goes, yeah, but you have no idea what I've been through. I said, you're right, I don't, but you have an idea what you've been through. And if you're not committed to this process, then you'll stay interested. Being interested keeps you in the loop, but it never really allows you to get out of it. The word commit is a word that you require to insert in your sentence structure. Be aware of how Americans use the word guess, kinda, and I don't know in their sentences, telegraphing their doubt. What you require to understand is that consciousness elevates you above anxiety, fear, and doubt, puts you in a state of receiving, asking, and deserving, allows you to access the quantum field where you can change the energy of who and what you attract, And once again, this is not that difficult to understand. So you've heard the term the law of attraction. I'll be assisting you on one of the calls on the next week. There's a science to attraction. And once you understand the words, the persuasion, the skills, and the techniques, you can virtually change who and what you attract. The parking space can show up when you go somewhere, wherever you go, because it's always there, because you're always letting go. The parking space is always there. So that's changing the belief system from doubt to certainty. And when you're certain, there's no margin for error. When you're certain, you know, and when you know, you're no longer not knowing. And when you know, you're in awareness. And when you're in awareness, the energy that transmutes around you is much higher. You'll begin to attract your reality, people and situations who are much more alignment. Simon Sinek came out with his book, Start With Why, back in the 2010, 12, 13, when he was really big and he was flipping the white chart. And he used to say, find people who believe what you believe. Well, when you're in doubt, you're going to attract people who are in doubt with you. And you're going to attract those people that do nothing to disappoint you to fulfill the neurochemical craving of being overwhelmed. Now, when you begin to change that belief certainty, it's not a how do I, it's an I am. So whenever you ask yourself, how do I, change that right there to I am, instead of saying, how. I had a woman today, she said need many, many times. I kept saying, you need to, or you commit. You need to, or you commit. When you need to, that's procrastination. When you commit, you cross the bridge. So my dialogue with money is improving. That's your affirmation for tonight. My ability to ask, deserve, and receive is improving. So that means, so money is a direct reflection of your ability to receive. Money is a direct reflection of your ability to perform service. Money is a direct reflection of how valuable you feel. If you don't value yourself, then you've just taken your money mindset down here to the bottom to where you'll be picking up dimes. When you raise your value, that's called the value ladder. I never raise my prices. I consistently add value to what I do. I never raise my rates. I add value. I'm more valuable. I'm more valuable every single year, so I can command more in free enterprise. Well, the same thing happens to you. But if your ego goes, yeah, but I'm not making any money. Well, that might be a fact. And the reason you're not making any money, make money. See, it's a very forced situation. But when you change the term to create, it's a different reflex. When you're creative, when you're innovative, when you're able to be resourceful, that's a different situation than money. Making money is not trading time for dollars. Creating money in free enterprise is an option that you can access 7 days a week. I mean, I've coached Bitcoin people who've gone from like nothing to millionaires. Now, once again, that's the law of the few, and those are the money mavericks out there being cowboys in a whole new money system. And money is something that you really must understand, and it doesn't just come from trading time for it. There's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm very good friends with the author, Ed Griffin. He breaks down the whole history of the Federal Reserve and how money is created, and the whole banking industry is fascinating. And the more you understand that there's infinite amounts of you to be able to create on command like this. So when you can, another term you want to be able to use is manifest. When you can manifest, you're manifesting. OC, on command, MOC, manifest, on command. So when you begin to change the way you affirm, so a woman was saying to me today, she goes, I'm constantly overwhelmed. Well, what option does she have out? She has no way out of it. She says, I'm constantly. She said constantly 6 times in an hour of coaching today, and they were all in references to anxiety, fear, and doubt. I said, when I was saying to her, when you say I'm always letting go, it's a completely different context than I'm constantly overwhelmed. That's the duality that you can switch that around, and it's not just words, it's belief. So an affirmation without a belief is a wish. But when you begin to affirm over and over, that changes the reflex between the brain and the gut. The reason you understand this connection between your limbic brain and your abdomen is that's where your second brain is. That's in your diaphragm. But when you're disconnected from sexual traumas, physical abuse, and all the other situations, then most of the world lives in fight or flight. And they stuff their feelings with food, compulsive debting, spending, anorexia, bulimia, cutting, alcohol, drugs, chronic debting, under-earning, underachieving. These are the situations that I assist people to understand cause and effect and why we do what we do. So I'll be covering this topic, the topic of receiving, deserving, and asking. It's going to be in all 12 12 Zooms because it's such an important component. And it's even tonight, as you go to bed tonight, you want to use some affirmations that are more I am statements. I am learning how to receive. I'm becoming a skilled asker. I'm a master asker. Now that I'm grown up, I'm capable of creating money on my terms and my time frame on command. I'm a manifester. I'm a money manifester. I'm a people manifester. Write your own affirmations in 5 to 15 words. Put an exclamation point on it. Use an I am, put my, be creative, innovative. Let go of the anxiety of putting yourself out there. For years, I've asked people, where is out there? What does that even mean? Where is out there? It doesn't mean anything. Is that the stratosphere? Does that mean you'd have to communicate with the Pleiadians? What does out there even mean? It doesn't mean anything more than the meaning you give it. What it means is it gives people an opportunity to avoid being their best self because of the reflex of not sure if I can be responsible. That's what so many people hold on to. Desiree, that will conclude tonight. I covered some of the content you would ask me to cover. For anyone who's on tonight's call, if you have not sent me a friend request, feel free to send me a friend request. I will accept all of them. I do Facebook Live 7 days a week. I have a Facebook Live tonight. My Facebook Live is relatively short, 10 to 15 minutes. I do them at 9 o'clock Pacific. And on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I do 8 Facebook Lives a day. I offer free 20-minute coaching sessions. If you've ever considered hiring me to be your coach, I offer free 20-minute coaching sessions and there's no obligation to hire me. I will give you some great insight on a 20-minute coaching session. You can access this by going to my Facebook Messenger and send me a message with your phone number. I'll respond to you within 24 hours. I'm very, very good at responding. And if you're serious about coaching, I have a 22-hour coaching package and an 8-hour coaching package. The 8 hours is 4 months. The 22 hours is an 11-month package. So I'm honored to be on this Zoom with you tonight, Desiree. And in the next 2 weeks, we'll be covering attraction factor on the 14th. And then on the 21st, the connecting factor, connecting with purpose on demand. That's going to be that was a great topic, is really understanding purpose and the connection to purpose, and then the inspiration and the energy that transmute and emotes off that when you're purposeful and on purpose. The reverse of that is when you're purposeless, don't have any direction, how overwhelmed you'll stay. So there's so many dualities I'm going to cover for you in this 12-week Zoom session. And Desiree, thank you so much for allowing me to contribute on tonight's Zoom Live. So go ahead and send me a message and I'll get back to you immediately.
Okay, Jeff, I want to thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. The chat is blowing up with so much appreciation for you. This was an awesome call, great content. I want everyone to know